I'm not as old as you are, Peter, so I
Yeah,
don't. Why
that's
don't you
true.
tell us about that?
So cold calling in boiler rooms. I remember growing up, and this was in the 80s. So I was about 16 years old when I was introduced to selling.
Yeah, do the math, people.
Yeah, so I'm 51. But look I walked into a boiler room. I didn't know what it was, but there were stacks of people in this tight little room dialing for dollars. That's what they called it back then.
Hey, listeners, I'm Dan Gagne, and this is
Peter Draculich.
Today, we're going to talk about reasons why we feel online sales are the way to go when bringing a product to market.
Yeah, so I'll just start by saying, if you really need to be convinced that after 20 years of Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, all this stuff, that online is where people go and find out about your product and sales, then welcome to Beginners 101 for online. Welcome to the new millennium. This is it. Like retail is.
But Peter, I don't like Amazon.
Neither do I. But that's where the fish are, right? You go fishing where the fish are, and that's as easy as you can put it. Back in the day when television was the place where you got audience, you go on television. There's still places where if you've got specific products that fit a channel, we advertise on a specific channel. We advertise on Shark Tank, right? So it's a great medium, but when they shut down, we have to find another place to go.
But I like to go to stores.
And look at, everyone still has that value add. They go and they shop and they browse and they take a look at it. But the majority of people, how many Amazon packages arrive every day at your house?
Peter, I'm being funny, people.
I know.
I happen to love Amazon. I happen to hate going into stores, and I'll tell you why. If not for the most recent COVID pandemic, if that hasn't taught us that shopping online and at Amazon is so easy, simple, products there the next day in most cases, easy returns. I think we're looking at retail sales were up last year with almost every retail store closed for 6 months. How is that possible, Peter?
Exactly. How is that possible? Because no one stopped spending money. They all just spent money online versus going into stores.
And Amazon grew. I think they doubled their output in 2020, which is remarkable.
They had a term specific to last year that they created called super profit venues, right? So like box stores, all the box stores, the hardware stores, they had record super profits last year for their shareholders because they were open.
Right.
And you were able to go in with a mask and do your thing. Shopping Mart, there's things that you need to go and physically buy, right? You still need to try on a pair of pants here and there, but guess what? When's the last time you can go into a retail store and try on a pair of pants?
You can't do that now.
Can't do that now. So guess what you do? You buy them just like you would online.
Right.
And you check them out. The difference is on Amazon, I just have to go and it gets returned automatically.
Right.
I still have to physically go back to the store and return my pants if they didn't fit.
Absolutely. Look at the number one thing Amazon's done for all of us entrepreneurs, I should say, is it's leveled the playing field. No longer do we have to cower to retailers. We don't have to listen to the nonsense of slotting fees and paying for people to get into the store.
Well, so define slotting fees, because I didn't know what that was until I met
all right.
you.
Well, think about it. Think of a store as a big piece of real estate. Every single section and space of that store is filled with product.
So you mean like I know where the Lay's chips are every time I go into the supermarket?
Well, not only that, but every single spot in that store has got a product in it. There's not a single section of the store that doesn't have product, right?
Right.
You don't walk into the store unless you're
shelves are never empty.
Unless you're 1 week into COVID and you can't find toilet paper, then you've got a lot of empty space and water. And every time there's a storm, there's a run on, water. So there's never any water. But my point is that every store is stock full of products. In order for you to get your product into that store, another product has to come out of that store. And who do you think's paying for that product to come out of that store? You are. We are. In order for you to...
So that's the slotting fee.
That's the slotting fee. You're essentially...
So you're paying to get all that inventory out of there.
Exactly.
So
you're paying for that inventory. It's not like you get to keep the inventory you just bought. They just throw it away. But,
sounds cheap.
But they're not going to pay for it. You have to pay for it. That's why it's impossible.
I'm sure you're not paying wholesale for it either.
Yeah, good point.
You're paying retail price for it so they can count their money and then put you in and count
Right.
your money.
Look, I had a product go into a retail store, and I was told it was going to cost $250,000 to buy what was on the shelf at all these stores. And I actually had to do it. Now, if the product that we put in there sold, hundreds of millions of dollars worth, so it was a good investment. But my point is you had to have a lot of money to start. That's why entrepreneurs and new products generally don't start off in the store. They start off online, where you can control the spend. You know exactly what you're going to spend and how much hopefully you're going to get back in return from that.
Well, and that makes sense why Amazon keeps putting more warehouses and space
Absolutely.
out there, right? Because they don't want to charge a slotting fee. They just want to have more product.
Right.
Right. So again, like you said, there's no red tape. I mean, look, it is difficult to get on Amazon. It is tedious. It is, they
difficult in the sense that guess what
difficult
you
in the
need.
sense
We
of-
talk about this all the time. You need patience.
Yeah, you need patience to
Yep.
get through that process. But once you get through the process and you do it right, you're in a supermarket, a supermarket, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with little to no shutdown. And the only thing you have to do is manage to make sure that you listen to them and bring your inventory in
Right.
when they tell you to bring it
Yeah,
in.
don't
and
run
how
out
much
of
to bring it.
inventory on Amazon, because
Don't
that's
run out of
definitely a
inventory.
challenge.
Yeah. So okay, that's a good point. Now let's focus on outside of Amazon. In terms of, let's say, Shopify, Squarespace, building your own site, bringing people there to buy. Building your own custom website today, I think is just, it's ludicrous. There's between those 4 or 5 that I mentioned, they have done all the back end technology that's required to make sure you're an e-commerce platform. And unless you are willing
That's
to
the
invest,
key word.
that is the key word.
E-commerce.
If you don't have the e-commerce structure in the back end, and it's not just, okay, check out and get your money and put it into my bank account, it is the details and the data about how did that person, what link did they come from to get to the page, how much time did they spend on the page, what did they check out, did they abandon the cart, did they not abandon the cart, and did they actually end up making the purchase and the transaction? If you can't track that entire supply chain going back and understanding where your ad dollars got you a sale and where your organic word of mouth got you a sale,
Save
you
your
are in
your
trouble.
money.
Save your money.
Don't do it if you don't have all that information, because it's a waste of money.
Right. So it sounds like it's complicated, but again, there's some really good platforms out there that if you stick to it, everybody can be an e-commerce. Everybody can be an e-commerce platform today, and that's really, again, one of the advents that's just at your disposal, that gives you the ability to make a product and go online tomorrow.
Right. And one of the things that clients come in and ask us about frequently is during our accelerator process, our program, do we build a website? And we clearly tell them we do, but we also clarify that it's not a website, Peter. It is a landing page.
Right.
It's an e-commerce landing page where
It's a transactional
Exactly.
occurrence. Okay. I am looking at this from a transaction standpoint. If I target the right person, they like what I showed them, they land on the spot, they should be able to instantly know they're at the right spot and then make a purchase decision. I actually prefer it when, I like ideas that sometimes have that easy, that's stupid, or that's awesome, right? That there's no in between, because then you create the tire kicker, the person that hems and haws, and they put it in the cart and they're going to think about it for a couple of days. I like getting to a point where you can just show somebody, the right person, and they're either in or out. Because if they're in, it's an impulse, they're going to buy it. If they're out, they've left, and it's good, with no one wasted any time, no harm, no foul.
Right. Because again, goes back to another segment we did earlier. Time is precious for everybody, and no one wants to spend time reading about, who the inventor or the entrepreneur is. They honestly, and I don't mean any disrespect by it, but no one really cares. What they care about is the product that they're looking at. Is it a good product? Does it have good reviews? Do I need it? Does it solve a problem that I have?
Right.
And if it does, guess what they do?
And
They
that's a good point. Whether
instantly
you're
and they buy.
online or whether you actually are in retail, the reality is there's that transition from entrepreneur and inventor to finally say, my product is standalone, right? And that really, the product has its own identity, it doesn't need to be the person behind the brand. I had this great idea, and some people need that pat on the back or validation. Well, then go to a parking garage and get your sticker validated, because that's quicker and easier. Take your product with you, they'll validate that too.
Right.
But your product's got to be standalone, and that's, again, representing that online is where you have the ability on Facebook to introduce and interrupt people.
Yeah, I prefer going to my ATM card and look at what type of balance I have in my account. That validates everything for me. So,
Exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about the old school way of doing it, right? And it still works, but how much easier back in you know what cold calling was like, right?
I'm not as old as you are, Peter, so I
Yeah,
don't. Why
that's
don't you
true.
tell us about that?
So cold calling in boiler rooms, I remember growing up, and this was in the 80s. So I was about 16 years old when I was introduced to selling.
Yeah, do the math, people.
Yeah, so I'm 51. But look I walked into a boiler room. I didn't know what it was, but there were stacks of people in this tight little room dialing for dollars. That's what they called it back then. And all they did was try and get appointments from people that were in the middle of having their dinner.
Unfortunately, everybody out there listening has had that experience. They're getting calls in the middle of the night from who knows where.
Well, now they're robocallers, but
Yeah, that's
look
true.
every business, you've got to be willing to pick up the phone. But when you're online, there's none of that. Right? What you have
Nope.
to do is you have to. It's a different type of phone. You have to pick up an audience. You have to find how to find the person that is most likely to buy your product, and that's an expertise.
Yeah, and guess what? Amazon and Facebook have done.
They help you with that.
They absolutely help you with that. Why do they help you with that? Because they want you back, and
Yep.
they want to grow their business. So they've built algorithms. They've got the smartest
Right.
people.
It's the tools that
Yeah.
they give you that helps you do that. Now, you have to learn the tools.
Right.
Right. And that's hard. And you have to interpret the tools. You have to interpret the data. And that's where, again, expertise comes into play.
Don't we have some type of software proprietary
We
to
do.
us that we developed?
We
that,
have.
what does it do?
So it basically tracks every dollar we spend, and it helps us identify what money and what sales came in from organic structures and which came in from Amazon and which came into our website and where they all originated from. And that's key. And here's what I'll tell you, a lot of people online, the challenge is not understanding that it is a holistic process. So I'll give you an example. Unshrink It. Everybody's heard of that. They've been on Shark Tank. Fantastic product, fantastic company. Go to unshrinkit.com if you shrunk your nice, cool, expensive sweater. Nice plug there, right?
Yeah, good one.
But, they know how to find that rare person based on a keyword. But when we advertise, it's weird. I advertise that on Facebook, and when I advertise on Facebook, I get more sales on Amazon. When I advertise on Amazon, I don't get the sales that you would think we would get.
Right.
And it's because, again, it's the difference, right? Amazon is about keywords. People that have an emergency they're not looking on Amazon necessarily for the solution. They are looking on YouTube, on Google, and on other places. So the keywords happen there. But again, once they have that keyword driven in there, I can identify them on Facebook. So when we show them the ad on Facebook, they automatically see it on Facebook. I go, wow, they probably look at our website and they probably look at Amazon. I'm sure they make the choice on Amazon because of what?
Next day delivery.
2-day shipping, right? So
Or
it's
2-day.
free shipping or whatever it is.
Right.
Prime members will always buy on Amazon. So, when you advertise, you have to realize that there's two platforms that you have to be able to take someone's money. And that is your own Shopify page or your own, we prefer Shopify, so I'll just use that as the term,
Right.
or your Amazon page. It doesn't matter how you're advertising to get them there. The bottom line is if they looked at both and they make a decision to buy, you still win. Hey, everyone. We appreciate you tuning into our podcast. We hope that you are getting some information that is valuable to you and bringing your product to market. We do want to thank you for watching us.
And like us, if you
And
can.
we'd like you to subscribe, follow us, share us, do all the things that we need to do to expand our reach and help people like yourselves getting their ideas to market. Once again, we appreciate it and look
Thank
forward
you.
to more. All right. So how do you find the million people online? That's the question we get asked all the time.
Right.
And again, Mr. Wonderful is the one who said it on Shark Tank a while ago, and he said something to the effect that if you can show me how to find the million people who would buy your product online, I'd invest $1 million in you right now.
Right. So what does that mean? That means it's hard.
It's hard.
Right.
But here's the other thing. It's also, once you do have that figured out, it's your proprietary information.
Right.
That same information, that same specific profile of people that you've identified as your market audience that you can find and continually sell to does not mean I can pick that up and put it into another product and it'll work effectively. Each one of these products, you are building not your brand, but that's part of your, I don't want to, what do they call it? They call it blue sky when you sell a business. This isn't even blue sky. This is an asset.
Right.
To me, this is a commodity. This is like, if you can figure out, and then that's what Mr. Wonderful said, if you know how to find 1 million people that would buy your product, you are $1 million business.
Right.
And that's really that's why you have to be online.
Right.
Because
and that's why Mr. Wonderful buys businesses that are in his space, because he already has the list of names. And that, you're right, Peter, that is the biggest asset that you could possibly have, are names and email addresses, because then you can come out with your next product that's a similar product and sell right into that space. It's much easier, but starting out, it's hard. But again, we know how to do that. We've got a very good online team that drills down and finds those people online.
Well, let's talk about the 2 ways that you can do that, right? Who was it that one of our clients, or one of our coming up clients, they work for a small company called Facebook, and she specifically does, marketing statistics?
Yeah, something
for
over my head.
One of the, what are they, the 3rd largest credit card company?
Yeah.
And so just for, what did she send? It was like over $1 million in a day, just to identify to see if it was the right or wrong audience.
Right.
So obviously none of our clients have that kind of,
no,
but the process is still the same. So what we've been able to do is we have the same people that have spent tens of millions of dollars for other large brands to get their products to market. So they can identify and understand the metrics of it quickly.
So what does an average person in our portfolio spend on advertising, Peter? I mean, like, when they first start out, launching that, they get ready to launch their product, they have it in inventory. What does a typical client spend?
So we always look for a starting budget of about $1,000 to $3,000, and we spend that very frugally, so to speak. So we probably run, we run 4 or 5, maybe 3 to 5 different ad sets that are all profiled differently. And it's like, I look at it this way: when a turtle has, lays its eggs, they lay 100. And not all of them get to the ocean.
Right.
And so we do the same thing. We look at, okay, I'm going to spend $25 on each one of these subset ad campaigns, and I'm going to take a look at to see which one got us the performance that we expected. And obviously, part of that is having the expertise to start a lot further along the way, right? We're not starting from scratch. We're starting with expertise. So
in this case, failure is okay.
In fact, failure is
part of success.
Failure is underrated.
Right.
You need to fail a lot to succeed. If you don't fail, you don't learn. It's just that simple.
Right.
And so failure is our option here. We want to figure out quickly, all right, did we see something on this one? Obviously, if one of these campaigns all of a sudden got us to an incredible level, we just keep funding it, right? So there's no limit. If something's working, there's no limit to how much money you should put into it.
Right.
Your limitation is going to be how much inventory do you have to supply that spend, or how much budget you have to do both.
So what's a good return? So if I'm spending, say I spend my first month $1,000, well, let's not say first month. So I know there's a little bit of practice that takes place. So let's say we're up and rolling in month 4.
Well, no, I actually, let's go even further back, because I think there's a mentality here, and it goes back to the first thing I said, when people say that Facebook or advertising online doesn't work.
Right.
So here's why. Because your first goal has to get to 1-to-1, meaning if I spend $1, I have to get $1. The people that say Facebook or online advertising doesn't work, they spend $1 and get nothing in return, or they spend $1,000 and get nothing in return. That's because they didn't start with the right audience profiles. They should have shut that down right away. So for us, the goal is always, how do we get to 1-to-1? And maybe it's 3. Maybe I spend $1 and I get 75 cents back. At least I got something back.
Right.
But
you've got information, right?
I got information, I got data, I
Right.
can make adjustments, and I did it on a $25 spend over 50 subsets, so it didn't cost me a fortune.
Right.
Now I've paid for data. So again, we've all run businesses back in the day when you used to pay for a list.
Right.
That's data, so it's expensive.
And that list might not be accurate, whereas this data is completely accurate because it's real.
So here we're looking at building it that's real.
Right.
And so I go from 1-to-1. Then the real goal is I got to spend $1 and make $2. So that means if I spend $1,000 in advertising, I'm making $2,000 in revenue. Now, can I cover my cost of goods in that? And can I cover my cost of expenses? Probably not. What we find optimally is that we have to figure out how to get to that 3x return, meaning
spend
even
a dollar,
2.8,
get $3.
exactly. If I spend a dollar, I
Right.
get $3 back, or $2.80 back in
Right.
revenue. And that is really where most businesses now can be profitable. And not just that, you actually can answer the question, I know how to find the people that I can scale up that business model. Now, everything has a plateau, right? So every subset will maybe reach a plateau, but until it does, you keep funding it.
Right.
So the answer really is, it's the safest bet you can make. If I know that tomorrow I can wake up and spend $10,000 and generate $30,000 in revenue, I would spend that $10,000 in a heartbeat,
Right.
because I know it's profit. And so that's what you have to get to. Now, we don't do that spending $10,000 in a day. You spend that with $1,000 in a day. Once you've proven it can be done, then you scale up to the $10,000 a day.
Right. And again, most people that hire us don't have, even when we do scale to the 1 to 3,
Right.
we still don't have enough inventory to scale. So it is a slow process. It's also the time when we have investors that would invest in that particular product because we've proven there is a return on ad spend, which is critical when you're selling online.
Well,
And
here's the part I'll correct you. It's a process that it could be done quicker if we spent $30,000 in a day to learn all the data. There's just a number that we have to get to that teaches us what we need to do and then be profitable.
Right.
The challenge is most of our clients don't have enough inventory to spend that kind of level, and I wouldn't recommend it. But again, if a large company came to us and said we have a new product to launch, here's $300,000, we
It
would
doesn't
know
change
in a very
either
short
way.
period
Right.
of time.
Exactly.
So you pay for time,
Right.
Just like you said, time's a commodity here, right?
Right.
So you can't pay for it to get longer life, but you can certainly pay for the time to get to sales quicker.
Right.
And get to profit. And it's really profitability, right? But let's talk about sales versus profitability online. There's a few different ways that you can look at it. I could lose $3 to acquire every customer, but know that in 6 months from now, they're going to be repeat orders. So there's going to be some sort of, like if
Lifetime
I'm selling
value.
treats or,
Right.
yeah, exactly, lifetime value or a subscription model that I can get them into, then I don't mind losing $100 per client, knowing that I'm going to make $700 down the road.
Correct.
If I'm a single product, then that's really where I know I just got to go out fishing every day and catch a new fish.
Right.
And those are the ones you have to be at the 3X model. So really, it comes down to how you're structured, what your product is, and there's some different ways. But that's, again, all the conversations that have to be done and had to succeed online. And
Right.
it's not. I'm not saying it is complicated. It's hard, and there's an expertise to it. And it's only because there's so much data to be analyzed, and there's so much expertise that needs to be, to make the right decisions quickly. Because making wrong decisions online can cost you a lot of money.
Absolutely. And this part of the segment is about online sales, and should we go that way? And that's probably X, Y, and Z when it comes to our A to Z process.
Right.
Which is why it's important that we start off with A through F, and that's making sure that we manufacture your product cost effectively.
Right, that you have
You
enough margin
have to
in it.
have enough margin to be able to handle spending ad dollars and still get a return on that and be profitable, which you alluded to is most important in the end.
Well, I'll go back to something I said in a previous podcast. It goes back to, again, it's having the right product, right?
Right.
So, okay, I'm going to put it this way. Selling something once, anybody can do that,
Right.
right? But when you're selling a product, the product has to start selling itself. It needs to have somebody say, wow, that was a great product. Dan, you should take a look at this and
Right.
go and buy it. Dan sees it. I am a referral. If I didn't think the product was good, am I going to refer it to you?
Never. You wouldn't say anything.
I wouldn't say anything, right? Am I even
And
going to
hopefully
return it
yeah.
sometimes?
and
Probably
Hopefully
not.
you don't say anything negative either. But
No.
But even if you like it, sometimes you don't say anything.
Exactly. So
Right.
really, you have to look at how to get 3 to 4 sales out of this, right? If your product is going to be at that point, if it's going to succeed, you have to think ahead so that it's not just selling it to one person. I need my neighbor to tell me about a product they bought, then I'll buy it, and then I'm going to tell my wife or my cousin or whoever it is, and they're going to buy it. There's 4 sales there. So
Right.
you have to think about the product has to be to that point where, like, we develop products where we make sure that it is a good product, that it's not going to get returns, that it's going to work, that's going to
That
function.
it's going to be in a
That it's got a wow factor. It's got a
wow factor,
differentiator.
and it's in a space that they're we're not going to run out of clients, right? We want to make sure it's a big enough market.
Right.
So we don't want a product that's a niche product. Ordinarily, we would say that we don't want products that are seasonal, although we have proven that.
What's the only product I'm afraid of when we have to go online? One that I can't find a category.
Category on Amazon.
Right. If I have to click other on Amazon,
then
don't do it. Do not bring that product to market. And
right.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't bring the product to market. Let me clarify it. You just need to educate
a lot of
people.
money.
And the reason why universities and colleges make all the money is because they sell education.
Right.
So if you have a product that you have to educate someone severely on how to use it, how it functions, why it saves them money, time, effort, that is an expensive marketing proposition because you have 2 steps before the sale.
Right.
You have to teach them, they have to make a decision, and then they shell out the money.
Essentially, you have about 7 seconds to, get somebody excited about your product.
So it can be done, but you have to have deep pockets to do that. And, again, in our world, we are about bringing entrepreneurs' ideas to market. People like you and I, people that have, regular jobs that aren't Rockefellers, that aren't Gateses, that aren't like rich people. That doesn't mean they're not funded, and it doesn't mean they have any money at all. If they have a dream and they have an idea that we feel has a huge market potential, I mean, those are the ideas that we love to work with and bring to market. And if you're passionate about it, it's part of it's online is the way to go.
Right. So shameless pitch. If you have an idea.
If you have an idea or a prototype, you should definitely be calling us or reaching out to us. If you've got any other ideas or topics that you want to talk about on our podcast or something that you'd like us to learn or share our expertise on, please reach out to us. Ideas at 52launch or podcast at 52launch.com. Those are the 2 best ways for us to communicate and get you some more information that hopefully will help you get your idea from napkin to market. All right. I want to thank everybody for watching our podcast. Dan, how do people get in touch with us if they've got an idea or a prototype that they'd like to share with us?
Go to our website.
Yeah.
52launch.com. Click the I Got an Idea button and
let's get launched.